Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy, and we're looking at the 21 F250 Tremor package. It used to be that you had to get a big truck to get a big V8. Now you have to get a really big truck. And actually, interestingly, this Super Duty, the 250, isn't that much bigger than the 150 overall in terms of its dimensions. It's only slightly wider. Depending on the configurations, it's not particularly longer. It is higher, and that's the chief differentiator between the half-ton and the 2500s now, except for what's under the hood. What's under the hood in the half-tons now is a 6-cylinder engine, and sometimes even a 4-cylinder engine. Not in the case of the Ford, but in the case of the Silverado 1500, with the top dog engine in the 150 being a twin-turbo V6, and that's in the Tremor, by the way. Whereas with this big dog, you get a standard 6.2 V8 with the option to go to a 6.7 turbo diesel and the new 7.3 Monster Motor gas V8, which is kind of, in a way, the economy alternative to the diesel, which is a great engine. It makes more than 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, and you can pull more than 30,000 pounds with that sucker, but it's really expensive. It's almost an $11,000 option added to the freight tab for this thing, whereas you can add the 7.3 V8 for just a little over $2,000 and pull almost as much, about 20,000 pounds with the right equipment, and that's pretty solid. And in a lot of ways, the 7.3 has some other things going for it as well, including the fact that it's simpler, it doesn't have a turbo, and it's an overhead valve engine, so there's room to work under the hood if you never have to work under the hood. That's nice. Some other stuff about the 21, it's largely a carryover still, unlike the, hey, come on guys, be quiet. Unlike the half-ton, which is all new for the 21 model year. And personally, and this is just me subjectively, I think the 1500 is a really neat and nice truck. You can find my review of it over at epautos.com. But if you're looking for a truck, something simple, rugged, and tough, this 2500 has a lot to recommend it. I like the fact that it still has the pretty straightforward analog gauge cluster. It does not have a gigantic touchscreen. Just has what you really need in a truck and doesn't have a lot of the stuff that is, I wouldn't necessarily use the word superfluous, but much more likely to break just because it's inherently more fragile. And this thing is anything but fragile. This is a monster meaty truck. Have a look at these 35-inch knobby tires that it comes with. Have a look at those leaf springs. Those are some serious leaf springs. And that axle back there. And up front, you'll find coil springs. Not coil overs, certainly not McPherson struts. So this is a truck that will probably last for 30 years or longer without anything substantial going wrong with it. I don't know that you can say that anymore for the half-tons because they've been so larded up with luxury things and electronics, and those things just probably aren't going to be as durable over the long haul. So I'm a big fan of this truck, and another interesting thing about this truck, given that it does come standard with the V8 and the base price is around $34,000, if you price this thing out relative to a half-ton truck with the V8, which is limited to some of the higher trims, in other words, you can't just get an XL, you have to go up to, I think, a Lariat before Ford will let you get the V8 in the half-ton, whereas it's standard in the XL, and in all the other trims, you can get any engine that you want, including the 7.3. So you could get a regular cab, 8-foot bed with the 7.3 if you wanted to, and not spend the equivalent of a house to get the truck. So that's something else that's unusual about the 2500 and the way the market is kind of changing, in that these big heavy-duty trucks used to be more expensive, and in some ways today they're really not. If you look at you know, features, equipment, what they can do, and what you pay for it. So it's just something to consider. And by the way, too, while I will say that the current half-ton, the new F150 rides like a Cadillac, or I should say rides like a luxury sports sedan, the F250 is really not that far behind. It's a little cruder, but not crude by any means. The main difference that I noticed in driving it is that it's got a noticeably wider turning circle. But other than that, the overall experience is quite similar. It's a very easy truck to drive despite the fact that it's really big, which only comes into play when you're trying to fit it into and out of car-sized parking spots like you would find down at the grocery store. At any rate, I will have a full review up of this thing later today over at epautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site, provided, of course, I don't get shut down for being a purveyor of wrongthink. So thanks, as always, for listening to the rants and reading the articles, and for supporting the site, and we'll catch up with you again soon.